Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the ATA program today for our CLC Connections for Banking and Finance. My name is Ashley Roseborough. I serve as the program manager for the ATA program and today's moderator. We will be diving into a great conversation with our honored guest, whom I will be introducing momentarily, about their career, education, and transition into the workforce. But before we get started, I want to cover some housekeeping items for you all. This is an opportunity for our in-person and virtual audience to engage and ask many questions about preparing for a career in banking. To do so, please utilize the chat box for questions and commentary if you're online. And if you're in the audience in person, just raise your hand and we will call on you, ask your question, and then answer them out loud live. Additionally, this event is being recorded and will be made available to you to rewatch at a later time with your shared peers, or just something to hold on to and refer back to at a later time. Without further ado, let's get started. Today, we are joined with Lindsey Kornegay. She is a financial relationship senior consultant with Regions Bank. She also is a UHD alumni, graduating in 2016 with her Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice and a minor in psychology. She brings to us over 10 years of experience in retail banking. Her goal has always been to make an impact on her community, but the impact looks a little different now than it did when she started so long ago. With this in mind, her focus is now on financial health and wellness and providing the resources to help her community. Welcome, Ms. Kornegay.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. Been a busy day. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but definitely been very good these last few weeks.
Awesome. So before we dive into the busy day that you've had and all the things that you're doing with Regions, I do have two icebreaker questions for you. The first one is, what is your favorite word?
Oh gosh, my favorite word here lately, it's been opportunity.
Okay.
Right? Because I run into situations where I find something really that something is not doing so well. There's an opportunity to improve that, or having opportunities. It's not in a negative way. There's always opportunity for something to be better. There's always opportunity for something to grow or develop.
Absolutely.
So I like that word. Lately, that's been kind of my word.
Absolutely. It sounds like a solution mindset.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great word. And if you could have any other profession other than banking, what would it be and why?
If I could do anything other than banking, it would probably be kind of back to my original plan. I always wanted to actually work in law enforcement. So I have my degree in bachelor in criminal justice, but if I could go back, I would probably do something more social related.
Awesome.
So I always believed in kind of in serving the community in a way more in working with juveniles and helping them. I know the system isn't really set up to help people sometimes. And so being able to go and make an impact and maybe change that and impact someone's life to put them, maybe give them the opportunity to move on to a better path. So that if I could go and do something, that's what I would go do. And I may do that later on.
Okay. Do you think you could combine the two areas of banking and serving juveniles?
I actually am kind of working on that. So I've worked in the past. So we actually partner with Junior Achievement. A lot of banks do that. So Junior Achievement, we go into elementary schools and things like that and teach about financial wellness. Last year I taught my daughter's class, and we went over things like how to save, what the difference, or the making wise financial decisions or making wise choices, whether you're buying an apple or buying candy or something like that. So really having those opportunities to do that. And then also now partnering with UHD, trying to do an outreach program where we can reach out to the whole community. Okay. So not just students, but in the community as a whole to be able to do that. Awesome. So not necessarily juveniles, but kind of going in and sharing about financial wellness.
Absolutely. So if you have not ran into Ms. Kornegay during Week of Welcome or attended one of her workshops, as she mentioned, she does a lot of partnering with UHD. You are also a UHD alumni, so you're coming back home to pay it forward.
Yes.
Can you share with us your educational background of who you are and what inspired you to get into a career of banking?
Yes, so I actually started going to college at Lone Star College, which
Okay.
most people are probably familiar with if you're local. And I actually got my associates from there. I wanted to go into law enforcement. And I was like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to be far. My family's here. I know there are other colleges that have really good programs for criminal justice in general. And so I was researching and I found UHD. I was like, I love it because I can drive. It's a quick drive from home. My dad actually worked in a building that's like 5 minutes away. So I would actually be able to leave campus and go have lunch with him on the days where I was on campus. And it worked with my schedule because at the time I actually was working, when I first started college, I was working at Panera Bread.
Oh, wow.
And then I started working at another bank. And so I was doing part-time and going to school. So in that, my transition over to UHD was actually really great because I already had kind of the Lone Star stuff. I was able to transfer over and do those night classes, which was a major deal for me because when you're working and going to school, it's pretty important.
Awesome, awesome. So Panera Bread.
Yeah.
You have like a favorite meal at Panera Bread? Or anything like that?
I used to, but I don't think they make my favorite meals that I had. I don't think they make them there anymore.
Okay.
'Cause it's been, oh my God, it's been such a long time. Because I went from Panera, I think I was out of work for a month between Panera and going to the bank that I worked at first.
Awesome, awesome. And your first position at that bank, when did you know that this is something you wanted to do?
So we talked earlier about kind of my licensing, but I started working as a teller. After about 6 months of being a teller, I was like, look, I feel like I can do more. And so I started learning more about the products, which sounds really crazy when you think about banking, but learning the different types of checking accounts, of savings accounts, learning about some of the benefits of credit cards and building credit. And so while I was a teller, I started sharing that while I was doing transactions. So I'd be processing a deposit. And I'd be like, hey, I noticed you've got this large balance. You could utilize this account that might get you other things for free.
Awesome.
So in having those conversations, that felt really good. And so I was like, maybe I want to kind of progress up. And so then I became a customer sales and service representative. And so that was kind of a mixture between a teller and a banker.
Okay.
And so I could have those deeper conversations while also being able to kind of run transactions. And so that gave me the opportunity to be able to build those relationships and help people and find benefits for them. And I think it was probably at the next promotion up when I became a personal banker that I really started seeing the impact as a whole. Because I started having clients who would come back and say, oh, hey, I remember you helped me get a credit card when I started college. Now I'm getting married and I'm planning a wedding. And you have things like that. Or, oh, hey, you helped me plan my honeymoon. I'm going to have a baby. And so you get to see people go through those. And I found joy in that. As a banker, I actually started partnering. We would go to different colleges during their welcome weeks, and we would share. This was before a lot of stuff changed in banking. But we go on campus and share about financial wellness, just kind of basics and give things out. But there really wasn't a wellness kind of like with regions right now. I can come out and I have topics. I can go over building credit. I can go over creating a savings plan. Back then we were just giving things away. So it was at that point, that's when I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to be able to be a part of that for people. I want to make that impact. I want them to come and think of me when they need something. And that really is what kind of got me into that.
Wow. It's such a essential piece of people's lives, the finances and how to manage money the right way, the better way, so that when you do it now, you have later, you can retire, you can retire and be retired. Yes.
The planning portion of it really is. It's interesting because, like myself, my parents never talked about finances in front of me, or if it was, we don't have money for that. We don't have money, or don't use credit cards because it's bad. And so I grew up and I was like, I don't want to feel that way. I want to understand it. And so working in the banking industry really gave me that opportunity to learn about that and be able to share that with other people.
Awesome. Awesome. Now your day looks different.
Yes.
As a financial relationship senior consultant.
Now team lead.
Team lead. Add that on top.
About to be probably changing again soon. Crossing my fingers.
We'll manifest it. What does your day in the office look like for you now?
So now a day I get into the office, I'm working with my team. We have a team meeting every morning where we go over kind of the expectation for the day, going over some of the successes that we've had. And then straight from there, we're getting into assisting our clients. If we're doing follow-up calls, we have an entire block in the morning where we're trying to contact our current customers as well as reaching out to new customers. My day also includes things like reaching out to UHD to schedule events, or reaching out to other community events so that we can try and get those booked. A lot of what I'm doing now is continuing to build those relationships, because that is never ending. There's always opportunity to grow those relationships.
And what are some tips you have for building relationships, whether that be with banking or just in general as a profession?
Yes, I will say, y'all probably hear it a lot, but networking really is a big deal. In the years that I've been in banking, if there was ever an opportunity for me to go and help someone else, whether it be they're short at a branch, whether it be, oh, they don't really understand this concept, they want someone to show them how to do it, always jump on that opportunity, because you never know who you're going to talk to, and you never know when you're going to run into them again. So those opportunities really can make a difference. An example of that, I worked with the same boss for nearly 10 years. So he was someone who I could rely on, and anytime I had an opportunity to go out and see and explore, right, working with the same person is really great because I built a really awesome relationship with him. But we had times where I was like, I wonder how other people do it. And so being able to go out gave me the opportunity to see how other places do it. I could bring that back, and in myself, in the way that I'm kind of doing things, able to kind of pull from those things that I learned. And then also right now in a transition in my career, I'm transitioning from being a team member to being a side of management, has been great because I have an entire network of people who I can go to and say, hey, this is happening. What do you think is a good solution for that? And they're not like, who is this strange person reaching out? I've had a lot of people reach out to offer me help. Hey, I know this is what's going on. If you need something, let me know. And so having that network, I know I have people I can rely on, and then also having other people know they can rely on me has been so incredible for helping to build up those relationships at work. And even my clients, consistently following up with them. If they need help, I'm not going to be like, oh no, go see someone else. No, I'm going to be the one to help them.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're going to direct to the audience right now. Anyone in person, do y'all have questions for Ms. Kornegay? You sure?
I don't know if you're gonna cover it, so.
Okay.
Okay, you're good.
Well, you can always, help lead the convo as well by asking it.
It's more so a confusion of different types of positions in banking.
It's a great question.
Cause like my stepdad has worked at a bank for 10 years and I have absolutely no idea
What he does.
So, like, for example, people will say, oh, you could be like a financial analyst or a controller or FPA. And I'm like, what's the difference?
Yes.
between
What do
three?
those even mean, right?
So,
Yes. And so to kind of answer that a little bit, every bank kind of has their own title for different positions, and that kind of makes it even more difficult. We kind of simplify it with teller, banker, manager, assistant manager, and then we have like our district managers, and then above that we have our regional. We have all these different groups, right? And then outside of just your regular retail, you have things like you mentioned where you got the analysts, you've got people who are doing collections. There's an entire world. So if I work at the branch level, so with ours, we have financial relationship consultants, where I am because of the type of branch. So those are the people who, when you go into the bank, they help you with your deposits. They help you with your opening your account. They just about anything that you need, they're going to be the ones to help you. Then we have a senior. The big difference between a financial relationship consultant and financial relationship senior consultant is licensing. So I actually got licensed at my bank before coming to my current role at Regions. I got licensed with a life insurance. I had a Series 6 and a Series 63. The Series 6 and 63 are more for on investments. I don't want to say advisor because I wasn't a financial advisor, but more in that direction. So it really depends kind of where you want to go. But in the FRSC role, that they just want the life insurance license. So what that would mean is if I had a client come in and they're like, man, I don't have any life insurance, I want something to protect my family, or in our conversation, if I uncover that, I could say, hey, I can provide that for you. and give an opportunity for that. Then we have the team lead, which is where I am now. And so I'm like an assistant branch manager where I go in and I'm able to kind of guide the team in certain things. If someone has an issue, they can come to me. There are certain reports that I would have to look at as because I have a higher level. And then from there, you have the branch manager. The branch manager, of course, it would be like almost like a general manager somewhere else. Outside of that, we have financial advising, we have mortgage, we have private wealth. So there really is, it's a very big thing, and each bank is going to have kind of their own title within each of those roles. But I will say, if you're looking up at a specific place, so if you're like applying at a bank, you can look up that bank and look up the title of that position. They should be able to give you an overview on what each one means. So like for me, when I applied to Regions Bank, they were in a transition between a universal banker as the title and financial relationship consultant. And so I went, and I was like, okay, what's the difference between those two? They ended up being the same thing. They were just called something different. So I would definitely recommend, if you're looking somewhere, look up where it is. And if you know someone and you're like, hey, I don't understand what you do, you can always ask them. If you're interested in that career, definitely ask. So many conversations of things that have interested me in my career have been from saying, what's your role? What is the purpose of what you do? You may understand the outside part of it, but what is the parts that we don't see?
Absolutely. Great question.
Yeah,
Because I had
they're really good one.
It's a great question. It was not on the list, so I'm glad you asked it.
And I hope I answered it good. And it's a lot, there's a lot of stuff in that to uncover.
Online audience, do y'all have any questions?
Yeah, so we have 3 questions in the chat. So first question is asked by Carlos. So what certifications are most impactful in the banking and finance industry?
Where I'm at in consumer banking and a branch, I really don't use my degree much for what I'm doing now. I have a minor in psychology, and I think that gets utilized more than anything, just because I studied a lot of sociology and understanding kind of different backgrounds. I studied victimology. So kind of seeing that not everyone you see is at face value. There's always more to someone than what you see when they walk in the door. And that has helped me, I think, more than anything. I will say there are a lot of people who have done really well, and my path probably would have moved a little bit quicker had I had a degree in something regarding maybe business management, or something along those lines. A degree in finance would be helpful if you're wanting to go more on like the advising or investing side, because you have a little bit more insight into that. But as far as being in an actual branch, in a retail branch, it's not required. It's helpful to understand some of those things. It teaches you a lot of resilience when you're going to school. But having the understanding and that concept of people is going to be a much bigger, I guess, resource for you.
You mentioned Series 60 and 62-6.
Yes.
Those certifications, what are those?
So those are for, at one point in my career, I wanted to go into financial advising.
Okay.
So I took a lot of kind of side paths to determine where I wanted to go. I'm still open to that. But at one point, I had helped a lot of clients with uncovering opportunities for them to grow their money. They might have had a lot of money and they wanted to grow it, or they had a little bit of money they wanted to grow. But trying to uncover that, and I had done that a lot. And at the time, my company had reached out, previous company, and said, hey, you've been doing a lot of this, you qualify, we have a program where you can go in and get licensed to be able to learn more about investing, so you can share that with your clients. And so I actually went in, that's where I got my life insurance one. It was the very first one we had to take. And the next one was Series 6. Those are going to look at things like securities. So there's a Series 6, 63, 65, 66, 7, and they actually go on higher than that. And it was very hard. I actually was paid, my company at the time paid me 40 hours a week to study.
Wow.
Yes. So it was an investment on them. It was an investment on me. There were days I went home and cried. It was hard. I kid you not. I went home and I was like, I can't do this. My husband's like, calm down. But so my life insurance one was that for me was easier. The Series 6 was a little bit more difficult. And then the Series 63 was kind of in between. And I actually tested for my 65 and I failed. And so not to bring it down there. But that kind of stopped me in that program.
Okay.
But having my six and my 63 gave me an insight to better understand things like what's regulated, how we protect people when they're investing, because there are certain restrictions we have to follow. In my mind, up to that point, I was just like, oh, hey, go talk to this person. And so that really gave me the insight to be able to see, okay, do I want to do this? Those are very helpful. Like I said, if you're wanting to go in advising, if you want to be a financial advisor, if you want to go into investing, if you want to go into private wealth, they're going to be required at some point along those lines. But I would not say to try and go get those done before you work somewhere where they will kind of sponsor that. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but so what happens is I actually lost my 6 and my 63 because I stopped using it.
Okay.
And so you're basically like an agent of a company.
Mhm.
And if you're not with a company for 2 years, then you're no longer sponsored, you lose that and you have to retest.
Wow.
Yes, so it's kind of a tricky thing, but if you're interested in doing investing for other people, being someone who does that and an advisor, then definitely go and you can look it up, 6, 63, 65. You can pay for courses outside of other places. I know Kaplan has one. I don't think there's something like that at UHD because it's so specific. It's regulated by FINRA, which you may not have heard of. And so you can go on and kind of look at that. You're learning more about securities, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, a deeper picture in that regard.
Awesome. And thank you, Carlos, for asking that question. We will also drop all those 6 series studies into the chat so y'all can research them later. Alina, do we have our next question?
Yes, so Brendan asked, what are some of the benefits of getting a degree in terms of salary, insurance, etc., regarding going into the banking?
What are the benefits of having a degree for that? So I will say, you may be able to kind of bypass some of what I did. It took me, gosh, 2012, my daughter was born in 20, it took me 4.5, 5 years before I was able to qualify for a program to be able to do that because of where I worked. So I think if I had had a degree in that, I probably could have applied for a position somewhere where that was understood that was the role. I kind of happened into it, but if that's something you want to do, I would definitely say, I mean, you can go in and get a degree in finance, get a degree in be an analyst, depending on which direction you want to go. And those can definitely be helpful to maybe save some time so you're not going and looking at a whole bunch of different things like I did. But you know which direction you want to go, and I would get a degree in that and look up that field or industry where you want to be in particular. Because banking is such a broad term, but you can go in and look at that specific field and see which degree is going to be best, and you may be able to shave a lot of time off.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. Our next question.
Yes, so next question is asked by Ruby. How easy is it to add to our business associates to get into the banking industry if desired?
So business associates in the banking industry,
Yes.
making that transition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh,
Ruby, if you want to explain more further, like what is your question? Okay.
yeah. I was gonna say, so I think when I want to make sure that I understand. So you're wanting to see if you have a degree in business, how that would apply, I guess, towards the business side. I want to make sure that I understand, because if you have that degree and you're going in and you're applying, what you learn in that business management is going to assist you in learning how to be able to run, because a bank is a business. We're very much business. I'm working on becoming a branch manager. And that's one of my goals. And so part of that is I'm looking at the branch that I want to manage. That's my business. So, and when you think about if you're learning how to manage your own business, whether it's when you start on your own or your own kind of little branch, that's going to help you to make decisions. That's going to help you to kind of have a step above other people who may not. So I probably shouldn't say this on live, but for me, right, I don't have a degree in that business management. I'm learning trial by fire on how to on how to do this. I have a lot of resources in that network that I've built that we talked about earlier, but I don't have the college education where I had a teacher sit down and say, hey, this is how you make these decisions. This is a great way to learn how to make quick decisions. This is how you can balance those. So I think that degree being utilized for that is very beneficial because someone may have a leg up on me because they already know that. They're not, no one's gonna have to coach them on how to do that.
Yeah, so we were all muted, so I was trying to speak, but yes, I think that you did answer my question because I have a business associates. I don't want to like do banking, but as far as like the financing and investment, I did learn some of that stuff. But basically my question is like if I wanted to get into that, it would be a lot easier because I do have that background. Is that what you're saying?
It may be easier for you going into a certain field. So it would depend if you're wanting to go into a side, like if you're wanting to apply for a management position, it may help you. It really is going to depend on who's looking at hiring, to be honest. And I think that would be kind of different depending on the companies. But I think it might be easier for you to get into that if you have an understanding concept of that information. We do test people. So when I applied at Regions Bank, even when I applied at the company before, they send out a test to say, hey, like, do you know how to interact with customers? If a customer did this, how would you respond? It's going to sound really goofy, but we have a math test. They say, okay, if you have a customer who wants to do a withdrawal, they may have changed it since then because it's been about 5 years now since I went through, but I kid you not, they'd be like, if a customer comes in and this is what they want to do, how much change are you going to give them? And so they will pick those things out. So if you have a better understanding of that, that's definitely going to help you and raise your score with a higher chance of getting in. And the education, the knowledge when you do go into your interviews is definitely going to benefit because we can tell when we see someone who comes in and they're just applying, they don't really care. They just want a job versus someone who's really put in that effort, gone to school and tried to understand it. Then we can have that conversation a little bit stronger and a little bit more developed.
Great question, Ruby.
We have another question asked by Carlos. This is the last question in the chat for now. So have you considered or known anyone who started a business with financial advising? Any advice in regards to that?
I do not know anyone who started their own business with financial advising without having already had that established. So I actually do have partners in my bank who, well, I guess not anymore, who were partners in the bank and I worked with them very closely. And they actually were able to go out and they started their own. And so those people have done a lot of networking. They're going out, talking to a lot of their outgoing people and went to school. One of my friends, I don't know if she'd feel comfortable with me sharing her name on here, but she actually partnered with me at Regions, went out and started her own business, and I follow her on LinkedIn. I see her on Facebook. She is doing extremely well. And she is also a certified financial planner. So when we talk about those certificates, having that certified financial planner or CFP is also another designation for her that is above and beyond what a normal financial advisor might have. So I will say her success has come from her going out of her way to add more and going to school. She actually went to school for advising. I don't know what her degree is, but that was her goal when she went to school. So she isn't like me where she just went to school for something that she thought she was going to, and this has been her path since she started college.
Awesome. Great question, Carlos. So we have another one in the audience. Thank you, Alina. Can we get your name as well?
Antoinette.
So my question is because I'm gonna be going on the investment or advising side. I have a finance degree. What I know, like for banking, you kind of like start to tell her to work your way up. What's the starting point for investment or for like analyst type position?
I honestly don't want to lie to you and say that I know the answer to that question. I don't know where a starting point would be for you. I have a lot of people who are wanting to go in that path, and I know that because they started in banking. So they started in a retail branch and worked their way up. Not everyone does it that way. My friend Heather didn't do that. I said her name. But my friend didn't do that. She went to school and she did that. So I think it's going to be along the lines of getting those certifications and those degrees. I have seen people who go in and they do an internship, or they'll become like an associate or partner underneath someone else. So in my past life, I had a financial advisor and he had two people who worked with him. He was the actual agent. He was the advisor, but he had two partners. And so he would bring them in on appointments so they could see almost like an apprenticeship, so to say. And so you may be able to go into different advisors who are growing and say, hey, do you have opportunities for an apprenticeship? Or do you have an opportunity for an internship? I know that with my company, we host internships. I had so many people ask about them at Welcome Week. I looked them up. The only opening that I saw in Texas was in Dallas, and it was in a completely different part of the bank. But look at different banks, look at different investment advisors. Because a lot of people, when you think of investments, you're thinking Charles Schwab, you're thinking Wells Fargo, you're thinking like all these different companies. But think about the smaller companies. I know another gentleman who I spoke with a while back. I think it was like B. Riley. So there are smaller investment companies that aren't as big. They may have opportunities as well for you to go in. Those other companies, they pick people who have performed in their jobs and they grow them up from the beginning. You may want to go to someone who you can say, okay, I don't have that experience, but I want to learn this experience. I might be able to grow from there. You have really good questions.
So you're 10 years in the game.
Yes.
Describe 3 things that have been most important to you in your career.
Oh, most important to me.
Yes.
I would say the community engagement. Being able to go out, teach people about financial wellness has been like that. That's what drives me. Secondly, has been the networking, not just from what I gain from it, but getting to see people and know their experiences and learn from them has been phenomenal. I love that. And then the last one has been the opportunity that's opened up for me. In my 10 years in banking, I've looked at compliance, which is like understanding when people operations, you're looking at how the branch is running, it's a paperwork file, doing that. I've also looked at the financial advising side, watching people grow their individual, learning how that works and the protections that they have. And then now going into a management side, having that opportunity to kind of learn how all of those things come together. So I think the opportunities that I've been given to just grow and explore. I explored a lot of different things in my career that kind of brought me to where I am.
Now, how do you navigate work-life balance?
It's funny that you asked that, because I've been telling my daughter that I've been working really hard so I can spend more time with her. Which sounds like I don't spend a lot of time with her. I actually spend a lot of time with my kids. They're my whole world. But how I balance it is being a working mom. I work full time. I have 2 small children. I have a 6-year-old and 3-year-old. Yes, and I have an incredible support system. My husband is amazing. Without him, I would probably just like fall off a cliff. I wouldn't even know where I was. I would just be a crazy person. So navigating work-life balance has been mostly calendars.
Okay.
One of my coworkers, I don't know if he's watching today, but he said, you've got to mention the calendars. I have a calendar for a calendar for a calendar. I kid you not. He taught me that I could have 2 calendars or 3 calendars or 4 calendars on Microsoft Office. I didn't know that. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. But calendars. So I have reminders on my phone. I also have the memory of a goldfish. So reminders on my phone. But things like I make sure to set time aside for my kids that I know is there. So Wednesday night is gymnastics. So when I'm done here, I'm going to pick up my kiddos. They're both going to gymnastics. That's also going to make it so I can sleep through the night tonight because they're going to be tired. But gymnastics, I'm a very hands-on mom. And so knowing that I can be close to them, I try not to set my drive. I used to drive an hour to work for a short period of time. And I was like, this isn't working for me. And so now I drive, it's like a 30-minute drive to work, including dropping off my son.
Okay.
And so for me, it was making sure that that drive was not going to be overextending. And then also, I think working in banking, being able to manage that is significantly easier than in other industries, because I know that Sundays are my time. I know that off the bat. I'm never gonna have to work on a Sunday. There's never an expectation of that. And so Sundays are good. And then Saturday afternoons are free. Most Saturdays, or every other Saturday or so, I'm off the whole day. So I'm able to designate that time for my family and still be able to grow, because I know that Monday through Friday, I'm gonna be in the office able to respond to those emails.
You are also a hunter.
Yes.
Can you share with us your favorite hunting trip? I say this because we talked about her hunting trip coming up, but
So I have a big trip coming in October and I'm super excited about it. My favorite one, don't- but I was 5 months pregnant with my daughter. And I wanted to go so badly, and I had to ask my doctor. I was like, can I go if I shoot a rifle? Her ears are developing. If I shoot a rifle, is it gonna hurt her ears and this and that? And he said, no. He said, but you're probably getting down to like the last month that you can do this. And so I planned a trip and I went out and I was able to harvest a doe, which was really nice. And so now people are like, oh, I had one coworker in the past, and he was like, oh, I go hunting, I do this. He was like bragging, and I said, yeah, were you ever 5 months pregnant and climbed up in a deer stand and got a deer and then processed it yourself? And he was like, no. So that is something I was very excited that I got to do, and I'm glad that I did, because I haven't got to go on a real hunting trip since then.
wow.
And my daughter's 6, so that's
Wow.
so I've gone every now and then, but nothing quite like that one. So but I'm really excited because in about a month I'm going to Wyoming,
Okay.
and we're going on an elk hunt, and I've been applying for tags for 5 years. Yes,
Wow.
it's a lottery system, and I've been applying for 5 years to get a tag, and I finally got one.
Yay.
So I can't wait. I'm excited.
And the kids are gonna be hunting there for the first time.
Well, they're not going on this one
Okay.
because we will be hiking probably 5 to 6 miles a day. And anyone who knows about 6-year-olds knows they're not hiking that long. I would end up carrying one on my back. So they are actually gonna stay with Nima. And she's gonna take care of them while we're gone.
Okay.
But my daughter is upset that she's not going. She has been asking to go. She told me this morning, I'm gonna miss you when you're gone, and I'm mad that I'm not going. And I was like, I'm sorry, maybe we're not leaving for another month. You'll be fine. And yeah, she's still giving me the silent treatment on that one.
Rightfully so, 6-year-old.
Right, yep.
Awesome. Well, I hope you have a good hunting trip.
Thank you.
Get the elk and get to see nature up there.
Yeah.
Yellowstone's up there, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
Yellowstone is up there. We are not gonna be able to go to Yellowstone, but I did tell my husband, I was like, we have to designate 1 day of travel because we're driving. I was like, we have to designate 1 day of travel to go through the mountains. And so we're gonna drive. So I don't know if y'all have ever been to Denver, but alongside Denver is like a whole line of mountains that goes pretty much up Colorado. And so we're gonna take that all the way up, and just we have a whole entire day. It's like a 6-hour drive, but we're gonna break it down to a whole day and just drive all the way up through the Wyoming. I cannot wait. I'm so excited.
That is awesome. That
Yeah.
is awesome. And that is work-life balance, taking hunting
Yes,
trips.
yes, yes. I use my vacation time. I don't know if y'all have seen, is it Veronica? Is she on? Yes, Veronica. Yes, act your wage. No, I'm just kidding. No. But when I'm off the clock, I'm off the clock, and my job is very respectful of that, extremely respectful of that.
So I have a question about the transition from being a teller to lead and growing in management. What were some of the challenges or things opportunities
Mhm.
to learn in that transition?
So for me, I learned a lot. Writing myself out. Growing up, I was always told that I was bossy. I have 5 brothers. Okay, and 4 of them are younger than me.
By
Okay.
default.
Yeah. So when I started working, I'd have people and they'd be like, that's not your job. Like, I know how to do my job. And it took me a while to really click for that. So if you ever meet someone who's like that, just give them some grace. They haven't learned it yet. But so it took me a long time to really learn that like there are some things that are really my place and some things that aren't. And even now I've probably stumbled with that. But I think that was an opportunity that I got to work on, was learning how to sit back and say, like, step back in your spot.
Yeah.
Like, this is your spot, stay in your spot. Like, stay in your lane, Lindsay, stay in your lane. So that's one thing. Another thing was learning how to have a conversation with someone that was guided in a direction. Learning how to kind of, I don't want to say manipulate or control, but you're in a conversation. It's so easy for me to go this way. It's really easy to do that, or it's easy to pick the first thing they talk about and have your whole conversation based on that. In banking, it's very holistic, especially the way I do it. I don't want to just hear about you needing to make a deposit of this really big check. That's really cool. And I would love to help you find something to do with that check. But if you're coming in with a life insurance check because you recently had a family member pass away, I want to be there to say, I'm sorry that happened. I want to understand that. Okay. And so uncovering that there's more than just the surface transaction of what you're doing and just what's in front of you. And that has helped a lot. And I think, trying to think of something else that there are a lot of things I've had to work on over the years, but I think those would be the two best things, is really being able to kind of dive deeper, but still being focused, but then also having those opportunities to stay in my lane.
I think that's where the psychology major comes in.
Probably,
Yeah.
probably. I use that a lot. When I say I use that more than anything, it really is. Yeah.
Now, we know that inflation is running crazy right
Oh, my
now.
goodness.
It's going in terms of gas, it's going down a little bit.
Yeah.
But overall, how has COVID-19 impacted your job or the field, or even inflation impacted your field?
So with COVID, a lot of things have changed in banking in general. Y'all may not know this, but in banking, especially in Houston, we're a high fraud area. So a lot of things have changed. I actually spoke to someone the other day who works in what we call BSA or compliance. And so we have to monitor those accounts and ensure that there's nothing that's not quite right happening, making sure everything seems legitimate. We have legally, we have to monitor and make sure that we're doing what we can to prevent money laundering. There's privacy acts, there's all kinds of things that we have to monitor. And so with COVID, we had an increase. So we were already a high market, and then COVID exacerbated that. Like, it just continued. And so that is something that has definitely changed. I have seen a lot of clients who are concerned about inflation.
Yeah.
Your money's not stretching as far as it used to. And a lot of people were out of work trying to figure out how to balance that. So if you're not having as much money, if you're making less money and your money's not going as far as it did, what are we doing to help?
Yeah.
And so that's one thing in our branches that we've been trying to kind of find a way to be able to kind of find that buffer and help our clients with that. And so I don't want to go into specifics because everybody's situation is different, but people are looking at lending, people are learning at, hey, how do I save so that when this happens, I'm prepared for it? Especially in a market with a lot of oil and gas, because oil and gas is cyclical, just like the market. So when those people are doing really high, if they're buying their really fancy trucks and then buying their really big houses and they can barely afford that, when it goes into a low, what is that really going to do? So understanding all of that, kind of putting it together, COVID just made all of those things amplified.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, thank you. Wow. I've noticed in these conversations that COVID has flipped pretty much everything upside down for people to have to pivot quicker or be more solution based and more looking at the whole person instead of this one thing of it.
Yes.
And wow.
It's a big impact.
Yes.
They're really big. And I like how you said the word pivot, because that is in my branch, that was like a daily thing. We're going to pivot. We're going to adjust. And it makes you think of Ross on a couch. Pivot. Yeah, that was us. And in the banking industry, y'all didn't see that, but inside we're like, pivot, figure it out. Pivot. Like, I could just imagine it now. All the people above me, they're like, what are we going to do? And so that was a challenge, I think. And then having that come down and also dealing with people not being able to be in the branches. So definitely.
So when essentially at the beginning of COVID, how were y'all able to serve your clients or your customers during that time?
We actually, I'm very blessed in that my branch was able to stay open the whole time.
Wow.
So we had none of our branches closed all at one time. So we didn't have, and some companies, they shut down. We limited access. So we did work by appointment where we would lock our doors and we would have people come in by appointment. We limited how many people could come into the branch at one time. We also had, opened up some of our policies so that we could do more over the phone
Okay.
and more through our drive-up windows. So that gave it a little bit more flexibility. We had to create all new policies for how to assist those clients with different needs. So you got to think, in a bank where we have to be very secure, we have to
Yeah.
protect our clients. And those things are monitored. So you have to figure out, how are we as a bank going to protect our clients while still giving them that access? And so I'm very lucky that I didn't have to come up with those solutions.
I imagine so.
But that was a major change in banking. And even some of those policies that changed during COVID in the very, very beginning, we're still implementing that now because it made such a positive change on our clients. And not to like plug Regions, I love Regions Bank, but one of our main things that we do is we want to make life better.
Yeah.
That's kind of our brain. That's who we are. We want to make life better. And so I think finding out what our clients need and being able to apply that and continue that on, not just say, oh no, we're just going to go back to normal. No, Regions constantly looking at how they can make that better. So we kept some of those things, and I love that.
Awesome. Go Regions Bank. Go
Yes.
Regions. Do we have any questions? As we are coming to, I have a few more questions on my list. So I would like to hear from the audience. Y'all have any questions? Anything y'all would like to ask?
I have a question. I'm Brittany. I'm one of the peer mentors. So one of my questions is, I know you said you were a manager. How do you manage lots of people, especially
Yes.
when you've moved through some people's positions, or like now you're over somebody and they were over you somewhere else? How do you manage those situations?
So I do want to clarify, because any of my team members watching are going to be like, she's that. No, so I'm like an assistant branch manager for now. I am on a path to become a branch manager, hopefully very soon. But I want to make sure if they're listening, I'm not claiming something else. But I will say I am learning that management, and it is a very new role to me personally. But having worked under someone who was a manager for a very long time, he mentored me as I decided. If you had told me 3 years ago that I would be even wanting to be a branch manager, I would have laughed in your face for the very reason you just said, right? Managing all these different people, I've worked up through their roles. Some of them have worked above me at one point. Some of them are older than me. And how do you manage those relationships? So for me, being that I'm so new, I don't really have a great answer from experience, but I can say having a mentor who's in that position, having that network of people you can rely on, can give you an incredible amount of advice. My company assigned me courses through Degreed, which is, I think, through LinkedIn. So I was able to actually go in and learn how to coach people through some of those more complex scenarios, right? If I have a team member who's not, I don't know, maybe not as accepting of my advice or my guidance, right? How can I approach that in a way that they're going to see that I see the value in them, and I love having them on my team, but I want them to be able to grow as well. Or having a team member who may be older than me, who would come in and say, oh, well, I know better than you. Like, hold on, I know you know a lot. That's why you're here. I want you here because you know a lot of things, but we also want to continue to move on with that, right? And so having those opportunities to really do that, that training is really, really helpful in learning how to kind of empathize, because you want to see it from their perspective. My mentor, who actually trained me in a lot of this, he put it, I think, what is it? He used to say, change seats, put yourself in their seat, right? So like, think about if I'm trying to manage someone and I'm in a conversation, if I'm on the other end of that, how would I want to receive that information, right? But it's not always how I would, right? Some people can't take things the way I would take things. Some people would be like, man, why didn't you just say this? So put it in their perspective, right? Put yourself in their seat with what you know about that person. How are they going to accept that information? Because really it is about developing the team, and not in a way that makes you feel good. It's a way about making your whole entire team feel good, knowing that they work together, knowing that you chose them. Whether you chose them specifically or not, they were chosen to be in that branch for a reason, and seeing the value in that and letting them know that you see that value in that person. And I can tell you, every single person on my team right now, they each bring something individual, and I try to let them know that when I can. So I've got one team member, she will ask every single customer, the same question. If I say, ask this customer this question every single time, she'll ask every single customer. She will do it. She is consistent. I know she can do that. She performs incredibly well. I have another team member who will go out and she'll find business. She'll find people. If I say, hey, can you make this happen? She will go out on the streets and she'll make it happen. She's gonna find it one way or another, a way for us to connect with people. I have a team member who is calm. On days where I'm like pulling my hair out, he's like, breathe. And so each team member kind of brings their own thing to the team. So you got to find that one strength, make sure that you're growing that. And if you start with that and you kind of work your way out, you're going to be able to grow them a lot. And they're going to see that. I hope my team sees that when they look at me, that I see that in them. That's the key.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Great. As a manager, and I manage peer mentors, I'm trying to get all the information about how to manage and do this. So that was
I just hope I can
wonderful.
apply that very well in the near future.
Listen, that's our best effort. But
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that advice and great question, Brittany. Antoinette.
Question about the work-life balance. So I have a 3-year-old too. But I'm a single mom.
Oh, that's so hard.
So what do you really do for situations like how lenient is like corporate breaks with emergencies? Because you can't control,
Yeah,
take care
you
of
can't
your
control
kids
what
off,
happens.
like sick often.
Yeah. So I will say I personally am incredibly blessed. My Mima, my grandmother on my mom's side lives with me. My husband is self-employed. So he can work from home when he needs to. He took 3 months off during COVID, which allowed me to continue to work during COVID. So it's having that has really helped me. My mom was a single mom. She left us home with other older kids. So I don't want to say that they're not helpful because they are, but it always depends on who you're working with. I had a boss who I missed. I didn't work for her very long. But it was like February. And my daughter had an ear infection the second time in the year and I'd missed 2 days. It was my second day calling in. And I came back to work and she emailed me and said, I just want to remind you about the time off policy. Yes. And I was like, okay. My manager, so that was a 6-month break in between. The manager that I worked with for 10 years, that was a 6-month break in between there that I did to be promoted up to another position. And I called my manager and he said, don't worry about that. And I said, okay. And later on, I worked for him at another bank. And my manager then, if I called him and said, my child is sick, he would say, I hope they feel better soon. Keep me updated. So it really depends on who you're working with and how they view that. So one thing that I might point out, especially in your situation, when you're interviewing for a position, ask that person that, how they treat it. Maybe word it better than I would, but ask them that. Because when you think of an interview, you're not the one being interviewed only. You're interviewing them as well. I recently interviewed for a position, and in that interview, I asked that person a question about how they do things. And that helped me to make a decision later on. So feel comfortable and confident asking those questions. Maybe word it in a good way so that it doesn't sound like you're just wanting time off. But ask that question of, hey, if something like this were to occur, what would that look like for me?
Taking notes. So. Any more questions in person audience? All right, Alina, what do we have in the chat? I saw some pop-ups.
Yes, so Brandon says, throughout high school and college, we was told how life skills impact your place in your career. What are some major life personal skills does your job require? Any skills do you gain?
Oh, goodness. Personal skills?
Yes.
Oh, gosh. The ability to talk. I don't know if y'all can tell, but I can talk. I learned late, but I learned a lot and I kept going. I haven't stopped since. The ability to talk to people, but while you're talking, also to listen effectively. And so when I say effectively, I mean, you can hear what someone's saying, but are you taking that in? And so I do this even with my kids. My son he's 3, and he'll be so upset and he'll be bothered and he'll be upset and he'll be repeating the same thing over and over and over. And so I'll be like, Wyatt, I hear you. I hear you. And the other day, I caught him the other day, not the other day. But I caught him, he was talking to my daughter and she was upset about something and he said, Effie, I hear you. And so it's things like that, learning how to just, one, hear what they're saying, take in what they're saying, express that you hear what they're saying, process it and be able to respond. I learned a lot about listening to respond versus listening to react. So you may hear someone say something and they're talking and you're listening to what they're saying, and you have a quick response. I have people come in all the time and they say something and I'm like, ooh, I would say this so quick. Then I have to think back and say, well, hold on. Am I listening just to say the first thing that's right? Or am I listening to say something that's going to de-escalate the situation or help the situation make it better? So let me respond. A lot of times people are coming in out of concern. And if I'm thinking of it in an offense, if I'm offended, as opposed to listening and understanding their concern, then I'm going to respond in a negative way versus saying, I can see your concern with this. Let's fix that together. Yeah. So listening, I think, is the number one thing that's really helped me in my personal skills and being able to make friends and talk to people. I'm sure there's people out there who are like, Lindsey, it's terrible, but being able to have a conversation, open dialogue, and be open to what people are saying. Are there any other questions?
No, this is the
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. If anything in this session has resonated with you, please don't forget to share it with us on social media, hashtag ATA UHD. Please, we would love to hear what you gained from our conversation with Ms. Kornegay. And if you do have any more questions, keep them coming. We'll be here for a little bit longer. This is such a great dialogue, and I just want to continue it if y'all do have any questions while she's with us. So on top of the personal skills, what are some other strengths and skills to have when pursuing a career in banking?
In banking, it's good, the conversation, and being able to listen to cues. I think having patience is really important as well. And that is, you have instances you're messing with people's money, right? And do all of you have a bank account? Have you ever had something happen in your bank account? You're like, oh my goodness, what's happening? I don't know what's happening. Where's my money? Why don't I have access? My card's not working, right? You're frustrated in that situation. If you come to me frustrated, if I respond with frustration, that's not gonna help anybody. So I have to have patience to be able to hear what you're saying and be able to come up with a solution. And that thick skin is really important too. And I'm learning that as I get further on towards being a branch manager, is people are going to say a lot of things to you. I have someone who's trying to complain because I did something as an exception for that person. And he's come in twice now, and I'm still trying to figure out why he's upset. And he's come in and explained it multiple times, and even my whole branch, they're like, I don't understand, but he's like, she did this. And so I think it's going to take someone else reaching out, but having that understanding and that mindset to be able to say, he's not doing it because it's me. He's not being personally upset with me. He's upset because it's something he may not understand.
Yeah.
Right. And having someone, me talking to him is not going to help because he thinks I'm doing something wrong. Having someone who can better articulate that to him may be helpful. And that comes from a mindset of patience and understanding, understanding that people may not understand what's happening, especially in banking, because things are worded so interestingly. So
It's when all those charges hit from the weekend, and it's like, oh,
that
it's bad.
is the worst. Well,
I thought I had more.
if it gives you any peace of mind, I can't speak for other banks, but I can speak for regions. We are constantly looking at and evolving how those transactions clear and post.
Okay.
We change posting. We've changed posting orders to make it where all of your credits, which is your money coming in, is going to go before any of your debits. So we've changed the way that works. Banks back in the day used to, it was based on which size transaction or what time the transaction, it was designed in a way that we would almost get more fees. I'm not saying that we do that now, or since I've been here, but back in the day, that's how it was designed. And so banks started reeling that in and changing it. Even regions, we used to charge up to 5 overdraft fees in a day, and that would be once per item that we pay. And Regent said, hold on, let's see if we can change that.
Mhm.
And so we went and we limited it to 3. And so in banking, the conversation has changed from we're a business, we need to make money. It's changed to how can we make life better for our clients, right? How can we make this easier for them to work? We've set up accounts where your debit card will never allow you to decline or never allow you to overdraw your account.
Okay.
It'll decline your transaction if you don't have the money.
Yeah.
You will never have to worry about an overdraft fee. So we're setting up accounts that make it almost foolproof. It is designed to be able to protect you, the consumer, from fees and excessive money being spent on things that you didn't need to.
So let's go back to this. Which one posts first, credit or debit?
With us,
So when I
right?
swipe, I just,
Check with your bank,
okay.
go in, you can ask them for their posting order. But with Regents, when you're spending your money, ours is based on the time the transactions occurred, but the first thing that we're gonna take is your money deposited.
Okay.
So if you go into the bank and you deposit cash, that's available immediately. That is the first thing we're gonna process before we do any of the other transactions.
Got you.
So
Okay.
if you make cash deposits, that's available for you to spend.
Yes.
Checks are a little bit different because they have to process, and it takes longer because we actually still, it's amazing as it is in 2022, we still have to actually reach out to the other bank to collect funds for a check, like a paper check,
Mhm.
before we actually receive the money. And that can take days. So you receive your check the next day, but the bank hasn't actually received that money yet.
Got
So I know it sounds really weird,
you.
but yes. You can look at the life cycle of a check being deposited and it's really interesting to see.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. What are some professional organizations students can get involved in for banking?
Oh, so here on campus, there is an organization, if I can remember what it's called, I have it in a notebook everywhere. With the College of Public Service, there is a service, it's a lab, we can't say center, it's a lab. It is, yes, it's oh my goodness, I can't remember what it's called, but I'm sure we can look it up and post it somewhere, but there's a lab that you can go to and they actually have mentors who can go in and help you create a financial plan. Regents is actually I'm trying to get Regents associated with that plan so that we can create some summits. So you may see more from that. We'll see how it develops. But we're definitely hoping to include more, but I wish I could remember the name of that lab. I literally just had a phone call about it last week.
I know what lab you're talking about.
Yes.
When Christy was here, she connected with the, I guess the contact, the director there. And
Yes,
everything.
because
Like
there's a Daniel Villanova, and then there was another Richard,
yes.
Richard Simmons.
Yes.
And yes, and then Spencer Lightsey. I'm
Yes,
just throwing out all
yes.
the names of the people.
I
but
know
we've
that,
been-
those names are familiar. I know
Yes.
you're talking about.
So, but that is a really great resource for students where y'all can go in and create a financial plan. You have a mentor who can look at your personal individualized situation and help give you some guidance too. So I don't know if what room it's in, but it's with the College of Public Service. And I'm sure you can reach out to someone, they might be able to give you information on it. You have it, yeah, I was gonna say, it's a lab. I know that because I called it a center and he was like, we can't call it a center because of something specific. And I was like, okay. But it's like a financial center. And it's really good. They have financial scholars, I think is what they call them. But that is a great resource.
Excuse me, Lindsay,
I also, we offer at Regent, which, and this is not a UHD thing. This is my company, what we do. We have something called a green print where we go in, we ask you questions, and we dig really deep to try and understand your financial situation, how you do your everyday banking, so we can give recommendations for that as well. So if you reach out to me, I would do that for you. It's a free service.
Mhm.
Most banks nowadays, I think, have something similar. I like ours because it really is, it encapsulates kind of your whole banking relationship. We ask about insurance. We talk about whether you have a mortgage, how many kids you have. Like, we ask a lot of questions because how can I give you a recommendation if I don't know the whole picture?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Lindsay, I think we had someone in the chat, Erica.
yes, is it called the Financial Coaching and Economic Stability Lab?
Yes, you're a rock star. Whoever said that, you're a
Okay,
rock
I
star.
did post the link in the chat.
The
So
link
that's
in the
it.
chat. Awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Are you welcome?
So it was the financial, what was it again? Can you say it?
Financial Coaching and Economic Stability Lab.
Financial Coaching and Economic Stability Lab.
And at the end of this CLC, one of the peer mentors will be getting all that information for you to send it out. Ms. Kornegay's contact information, the certs that she talked about, the 60s, and the economic lab here on campus for y'all. Any other organization?
That's all that I can think of specifically for here. There's a lot of, when I was learning, I went to Regents.com actually has a whole section called Migraine Insights. You can go on, we have articles that are free for anyone to look at. We have some for children. So if you have small children who are wanting to learn about saving, you can go on there and do that. Yes.
For every two you lose.
Yeah.
Take 25% of that knowledge.
And put it into your savings
Yes.
account. And when you're 30, no, I'm just kidding. But there are lots of resources on there. As far as on campus, the lab is the only one that I know of in particular. I try to come on campus from time to time to do financial wellness seminars. So I hopefully will be able to be out more often with the transition that my branch is going through. I can't make any promises, but I'm working on trying to get some dates where we'll be out. And so we try to go over things that are really your everyday things, creating a spending and savings plan. And that gives you resources. We have worksheets that we'll bring and provide, and that's free. You don't have to pay to come to any of those, kind of like this today. You just sign up and you show up and we go over some different things and some information. So that's what I know on campus. I know there's a lot of resources to help you save money on campus, like the food pantry. I don't know if y'all have been to student activities. I hope you have, because I mean, I've been down there and I'm like, man, I wish I had known about this when I went here. I don't even know if it was there then, but if it was, there wasn't much said about it. But that, and of course you have the library, you have the discounts that you can get with the train station, the metro station. And you get discounts using your student ID to go places like movie theaters will give you a discount, going to the museums. There's a lot of resources to help you save money that no one talks about, right? So know that, research it. If you're going somewhere, ask if they have a student discount.
Yes.
Right? This didn't cross my mind until recently. And I'm like, man, I wish I thought about it sooner. I didn't think about student discounts unless it was posted in front of me. But I went somewhere, my brother's in the military, and I went with his wife to go somewhere. And everywhere we went, do y'all offer a military discount? Do you offer a military discount? Do you offer a military discount? And I was like, man, I should have asked that a lot more. Do you have a student discount? So ask about that, because you may be able to get that at different places. And saving money is the biggest way. A penny saved is a penny earned, right? Especially nowadays, because your inflation is stretching. So just think about those different ways where you can save and look for those. Being a student, that gives you a lot of benefits.
Amazon Prime does it.
Yes.
Hulu does it. Spotify
Yes.
things. All these fun things, the things we do every day.
I'm almost tempted to go back to school, just
find an account.
just do it.
Just do it.
Do it, right? Just one class, that's all it takes.
On one class. All you need is an ID. Do we have any questions in the chat? I see some things popping up. Are there any questions?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, perfect.
Brandon is just asking about the link, so we'll send it to him.
Gotcha. Yeah, we have the links coming to y'all. This chat is saved, so I'm just gonna copy and paste it and send it to y'all as well, so you guys and you all in the room can have access to it. Do we have any questions in the room? Everyone good? Well, Lindsey, that is all of the questions I have. And the questions, and we have one.
No,
Oh,
okay, she's
sorry.
like, no, not me.
Oh, seriously. Yeah, got you. So I actually have a lot. I do have one more question for you. What are you looking forward to for your future?
For my future, that's a really good question. Currently, I'm looking to become a branch manager so that I can kind of run my own branch. I typically, in what I do is I try to move to a position, do that the best that I can, and just become the best at what I'm doing before I start looking at something else. I have looked at opportunities for that focus on community engagement. And we have with Regions, it's called Next Step. It's where we come out, we do those educational things and we share them on campus. And I've considered that as an opportunity to be able to move into. It gives you a lot of flexibility. Some of it you can work from home. So I like that aspect. But the biggest thing for me is being able to go out, give back to the community full time.
Absolutely.
Because it does pull me out. Every time I come out here, it's pulling me away from my branch, which I love my branch, but I love being out here. So if I could just focus on just this, that would be really cool. But I do want to get that opportunity to manage a branch first. So that's my key focus right now, is being able to do that and being able to run that part of the business.
We look forward to seeing y'all here in the community more, and we look forward to celebrating you as you become a branch manager.
We're
'Cause it's-
manifesting. that.
Yes, it's on its way. It's on its way. I think Tremaine connected us.
Yes.
And then I think the next week we saw each other during Welcome Week. And then after that, it's just been every
Yes.
time we pass each other, it's been good energy and good vibes. So we thank you again for taking the
Yeah.
time to be with us.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me out. This has
Absolutely.
been really awesome. I feel really encouraged by all of your questions. I want each of you to know if you asked a question, even if you didn't, I am encouraged by y'all being here. It does mean a lot to me to get to share. I know that the industry is a lot, especially in banking. And if you're not familiar with it, it can be overwhelming. But it really is awesome to get to share, because I wish more people could get in and learn more about it, because it helps and develops as a person. I feel like I've developed so much and grown it since my time in banking. And it's given me a lot. It's very rewarding.
And we will share this video with you to share with your peers as well.
Oh,
About
awesome.
banking, all the questions about banking.
I'll get a lot of, you shouldn't have said that. No, just kidding.
I think it went very well, and thank you all for being with us this afternoon. Shout out to our peer mentors for creating this space. This was their vision. The hashtag was created by them. Our career corner is right here. So as the semester goes on, there will be resources up here for you all to look at, to grab, shake our guest speaker's hand, connect with them, network. And we look forward to seeing you at the next one. At the end of this event, you will be receiving the CLC Reflection Survey, along with some other information about the event, like Miss Lindsey's contact information, if you have any questions, and some of the resources that she shared with you. So fill that out. Let us know how we did. Let us know what you gained from that conversation. And it also goes towards your ATA requirements for your 2 CLCs this semester. So you get the financial incentive, the book voucher. Other than that, that is it. That's all. We look forward to doing this again next week for our journalism CLC with Anna Gonzalez. She's also a UHD alumni. It's always nice to have our UHD alumni come home and just talk about their experience, what they're doing now, what they learned then. And yeah, that's it.